Is the world where Adam and Eve appeared our world, or is it another world? I ask this question because we see, in some theological theories, people say that Adam and Eve would not have been on earth, but in a paradise, somewhere else, and they rely on an interpretation of the dogmas who say that it is through the sin of Adam and Eve that death has entered the world. Science clearly shows that the death of animals and plants, the very death of the stars, arrive well before creation of Adam and Eve. So, it seems contradictory. So first, let's go back to the exact domain of dogma. As I have said many times, Catholic dogma deals only with the doctrine of salvation, which concerns the salvation of the human being. When a dogma says that by the sin of Adam and Eve, and the dogma affirms that Adam and Eve existed, death entered the world, since it concerns only salvation, it concerns the death of the man, not the death of animals and plants. It concerns the spiritual death of the man who separates himself from God by their sin, and also the biological death, namely, that they normally should not die and have the same fate as the Virgin Mary, at the end of their life, programmed to last a while and then brought to heaven by Assumption. The Catholic dogma of the Assumption explains the normal destiny that should have been that of the inhabitants of the earth if there had not been original sin. As a result, when one reads the book of Genesis and when one considers that Adam and Eve are of the same nature as Mary, they have the grace of Mary. They are immaculate conception, and that Mary is a woman with a biological body that must eat, a normal woman, and we must affirm, to be realized, that the world in which were created Adam and Eve is our true world. But the enormous difference is that Adam and Eve, being clothed with the presence of God, profoundly, extremely mystically, radiated outward, so that animals, seeing them, did not attack them, but they were fascinated by their light and approached them gently. But this world was truly a world where predators ate prey. I would say it's even important, because it was only through sensible visions that Adam and Eve understood, as God had told them, if you eat from this tree, you will die. That's right. So the fact that from their creation, before the original sin, Adam and Eve eat of all the trees of the earth, the fact that they were ordered to have children, all this indicates that they are the first humans with the same biological body as we, but obviously, with the grace that harmonized everything. It is in this sense, and in this sense only, that we can say that they are not in the same world as us, because we know very well that when our heart is peaceful, the presence of God is there, that we know what we do on earth, it is grey outside, it is source of beauties and joys. But when our heart is sad, we have no purpose to life, and it is a radiant sun, the birds sing, it can be a source of even more despair. Their inner universe was different. After the original sin, God hid himself. The animals were scared, the man and the woman began to blame each other. It's not the same inner world anymore. They no longer see the world around them in the same way. He has become a hostile world. That's true. And yet, locally, Adam and Eve have been put in our world. The Bible says that it is in Mesopotamia, perhaps, we do not know anything about it. Scientists think that it is Africa, and I think that for this question of localization, when one is Catholic, one must trust science because it does not directly concern the doctrine of salvation. The doctrine of salvation, it concerns the salvation of Adam and Eve, our salvation, therefore the existence of a spiritual soul, etc.